Oh, hi everyone, it's Susie from Esoteric Trading Solutions. I hope you're all well. I hope you're being kind to yourself, being kind to your family, being kind to your friends, being kind to your animals, your potty cats, your dogs, any sort of animal you've got, and being kind to people in the world just to make this world a better place. Now, before I start my presentation, I'd like to say that we've still got our Kickstarter program going on Kickstarter, and it's cryptocurrency, what it's all about. I'm still pretty disappointed by just how many people have contributed. We're nearly near our goal. We're basically 80% funded, and we've got 79 backers. So thank you very much for all those people that actually have funded the program. We've got 12 days to go, but I am still very disappointed, considering I've got nearly 11,000 subscribers on YouTube. I would have thought I would have had many, many more subscribers. So for me, it's still very, very disappointing. We will meet our funding target. So thank you very much for all those people that have already funded. But it makes me very disappointed because I put a lot of effort into YouTube. I really, really know my stuff. I've got amazing experience, over 35 years at least in the financial markets, and I'm not big noting myself. I'm not being arrogant, but the sort of information you get from me is just, it literally comes from the professional market. And I had one fellow on my YouTube comment page that basically, said that I shouldn't get paid for anything, and I shouldn't expect to get paid for anything. But seriously, I've got to be honest with that guy. I forget his name now. I just said, you've got to be kidding. I mean, you need to, I put a lot of effort into this. I've been doing YouTubes for well over 2 years. I barely get any donations, and essentially I don't actually need to do this. And the information I give all you guys is professional markets information. And even in the professional markets, most people won't have the experience that I've got because I've worked like in all markets. So I have deleted that guy from my YouTube. Pretty much, I don't need someone like that to see such a negative comment on my YouTube. But I have to say I am really disappointed with the level of support, even though we will make our funding, and it would be really nice to see more support before the end of the 12 days. It just makes me wonder, again, and I've gone through this with you guys over the last year and a half, whether it really is worth me doing YouTubes, because clearly there are people out there that don't actually appreciate the information that I give you, which is specialized information. You'd pay an arm and a leg to get the specialized information. There are a lot of YouTubers out there that honestly what they tell you is just not correct and just not right. And they're all full of hype and garbology, absolutely. And I'm still fairly disappointed, I have to say. So what I'd like to cover today is XRP and Ripple and an institutional dealer panel. And it came from a comment from one of my clients, who sent me this article, which was produced back in 2016, and a program launched in 2017 from the Incentive Accelerator. And it's talking about Ripple and XRP and the banks and the forthcoming incentive program. Accelerates use of XRP as a universal bridge asset by rewarding offer size, time, outstanding, and spread. So an incentivized program stimulates XRP adoption in market making by rebating liquidity providers for quoting against XRP in the immediate term, thereby supporting spread reduction over time against a new asset. The incentive serves to offset volatility risk for market makers and provides an algorithmic distribution schedule for XRP. As an adoption use of XRP increases, so does its liquidity and price stability. So what I want to talk about here is essentially an institutional dealer panel. Now, institutional dealer panels happen in the bond market, and that's pretty much where I got a lot of my experience. And this is exactly what XRP, Ripple and XRP are doing when they talk about that sensitization program. It's actually an institutional dealer panel, and it's really, really important, and it shows you exactly where Ripple is going and how professional Ripple are. So what is a dealer panel? And you do find dealer panels in the bond market, particularly a dealer panel being a global bond being issued or a domestic bond. Now, I worked for Queensland Treasury Corporation, and they had a dealer panel where Queensland Treasury Corporation, the state borrowing authority for the state government of Queensland in Australia, basically with the funding operation for the state government of Queensland, and they would issue domestic bonds as well as global bonds to fund the balance sheet of the Queensland government. Okay, and with that, they would basically use a dealer panel to sell those bonds domestically in the Australian market or globally. Okay, so the function of a dealer panel has many, many different responsibilities, and this list I provided you is not exhaustive. Their function is they'll have an ongoing price making responsibility role for the proper price making of the asset, whether it be a bond, whether it be an equity, or whether it be a cryptocurrency like XRP. The dealer panel will also distribute the asset to their clients. So say there's a number of different dealer panel members, being banks, global banks. Global banks will have a huge client list of their own, and they will sell the asset, XRP, to their clients. The dealer panel also has the added responsibility of keeping XRP liquid. They also have another responsibility where they may warehouse XRP on their own balance sheet, i.e. the bank's balance sheet. Number 5, the dealer panel, from what Ripple have said they are allowed to do, because Ripple are the ones that will be paying them dealer panel fees, or i.e. incentive program fees. A dealer panel member, being a bank, is allowed to make a range of spreads, say for example within the terms of the dealer panel arrangement, and it'll be a legal agreement between the bank and Ripple, a range of spreads, and it may be say 1 or 2 cents, or it could be 1.5 cents, or it could be 1 cent between the buy and sell spread, the buy and sell, or the bid and offer, same thing, in large volume, say 500 million or a bill. Okay, the dealer panel documentation, which is a legal agreement between Ripple and the dealer panel member being the bank, will have very specific responsibilities that are expected of the dealer panel member being the bank. So the dealer panel member must always act in the best way, professional and strict guidelines on behalf of the organisation being Ripple, and they will be selling the funding asset for Ripple, i.e. XRP. The dealer panel, being the members, are expected to keep their own turnover statistics, and Ripple will be keeping their own and matching them up at the end of the month. And then for that full month, you know, from the start right through until 31 or 30 days, at the start of the new month, the dealer panel member will be paid fees by Ripple for acting as a dealer panel member to issue to basically on-sell XRP in the market, and to take on all those added responsibilities in terms of being a dealer panel member. In the bond market, it's a very, very common practice, as I said, to appoint a dealer panel member for the domestic or global bonds, or someone to sell both domestically and global. And it's a very, very common thing, and there must be transparency, and there's also got to be many, many other functions that come within the dealer panel, whoever's a part of the dealer panel responsibility. You know, it's quite important. Okay, now when we go back to Ripple and XRP, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If we go back to Queensland Treasury Corporation, QTC, who I work for, and I worked for Queensland Treasury Corporation gosh, off memory, about 4 or 5 years, and I had a great time. I was about 25 and I had an absolute ball. Queensland Treasury Corporation managed about $21 billion in state funding on behalf of the state government of Queensland, and it was basically the funding arm for the balance sheet of the state government of Queensland, okay? And they have an institutional borrowing program where domestic bonds and global bonds are actually sold to the end investor. Now, if you look at their dealer panel, they will have a number of different banks that will sell their domestic bonds and their global bonds, okay? And that dealer panel member will have very, very strict conditions which are set down by Queensland Treasury Corporation to what they're actually allowed to do. Okay, so this reference here, you can look that up yourself if you want to, not a problem. So they will basically, the dealer panel member will have different types of assets that they're allowed to sell in the bond market, and they need to be appointed by the issuer to be able to sell those assets. So in this case, for Queensland Treasury Corporation, for example, a bank would have to be appointed to be allowed to sell domestic and global bonds, floating rate notes, multi-currency medium-term note facilities, and US commercial paper. Now, this is all fixed interest and money market securities, okay? But when we go back to Ripple and XRP, you'll understand what I'm saying. So if we go to Queensland Treasury's dealer panel members, and we look at who's allowed to sell Queensland Treasury note facilities, it'll be ANZ Banking Group, which is one of the largest banks in Australia, CBA, which is one of the largest banks in Australia, Deutsche Bank, National Bank, and Westpac. And these are all very high credit rating banks that are allowed to sell domestic securities in Australia. If we go to the bond market, for example, if we go to the bond market, which is, again, domestic and global bonds, you'll find that ANZ Bank sells them domestically as well as globally. Bank of America, Barclays, BNP, Citigroup, CBA, Deutsche, HSBC, JP Morgan, and many, many more. Now, often a dealer panel member is appointed by, obviously their credit rating. How, do they have a good credit rating? JP Morgan has a very good credit rating, so does HSBC, CBA. The major banks here have credit ratings of AA minus, which is a very high credit rating. But they'll also be appointed for a number of different factors, and often those different factors are: do they have global reach? Oops, sorry, it's my alert system for trading. Do they have global reach? Do they have big client bases? For example, HSBC is huge in Asia. So many, many bonds would be sold in Asia, international bonds. It'll be, do they have credit ratings? They have huge networks, all those sort of things. So there'll be a number of different requirements to how Queensland Treasury Corporation selected those members on the dealer panel. Now, Ripple will do the same thing, okay? So let's just go back, because it's fairly complex and you may not understand this, but we will go back. So let's go back. So going back to this article again, the forthcoming incentive program, they're talking about a dealer panel program, okay, that accelerates the use of XRP. In other words, they appoint dealers on the panel, i.e. banks on the panel, to sell XRP to their client base domestically and globally. Okay, so basically this program stimulates XRP's adoption, where the dealer panel makes markets where they get commission or rebates at the end of the month or the first week of the new month for the previous month of turnover that they've sold, and whatever they've quoted against XRP, depending on their criteria for being a member on the dealer panel and basically supporting XRP and keeping that spread, that bid-offer spread, buy-sell spread tight against XRP, which is a new asset. Also, the dealer panel member, the bank, is paid a commission or a fee, whatever you want to call it, a dealer panel fee or a commission, to offset their volatility, their price risk volatility of making markets in XRP to their own client base. Okay, now I'll explain that when we go to some examples, okay? But what this does essentially is increases the use of XRP. It certainly increases the liquidity. It encourages price stability, and it makes the use of XRP even more global in every way, okay? And basically, as I said before, I believe XRP will be the #1 cryptocurrency in the world. Ripple are so smart what they do. They are so professional what they do. These guys, Ripple, know what they're doing. And they've been employing or already employed a dealer panel to actually distribute or sell XRP to their global and their domestic client base. Now, some of the large banks have, millions and millions and millions of clients. Millions. Okay, let's put this in perspective. Millions. And they will be selling XRP to all their client base. Now, when we talk about a dealer panel, we're generally talking about the wholesale market, where its licks of XRP are huge. They could be 5 billion, they could be 1 billion, they could be 500 million. But the reality is it increases the usage of XRP. It increases the tradability of XRP. It basically gets the dealer panel out there marketing XRP and selling XRP to their own client base. So what it means is it's another network for Ripple to be selling XRP, and it is pretty huge, I have to say. So if we go to the next, slide, this forthcoming incentive program, which is a dealer panel, where the bank gets paid fees on behalf of the issuer, being Ripple, to do the following. It's the same functions I said before as the dealer panel at the institutional level. And this is not an exhaustive list. There's many other functions to make ongoing price making role, buy and sell, both sides, buy and sell. The distribution of the asset to the client, selling the asset to the client. In other words, selling XRP to their own clients domestically and globally. A marketing function and a selling function. Keep liquidity going. Banks providing ongoing liquidity for XRP. Have to make two-way markets. The bid-offer spread has to be reasonably tight. And, the dealer panel documentation may require a minimum of 10 million in volume or more. It just depends what the dealer panel documentation says from Ripple. Maximum spread, say for example, 1 cent. Depends on what the dealer panel documentation says, okay? To keep that bid offer spread between the buy and the sell for XRP in volume fairly tight, all right? Also, the banks may be expected to hold XRP on their own books or warehouse XRP on their own proprietary books, not the client's book, their own book, okay? Another thing is they will be expected to show tight spreads, the buy-sell spread in large volume to clients, and this could be stipulated in dealer panel agreement if you're a dealer panel member. And, you may be expected to only show a 1 cent market for over 1 billion XRP, or maybe expected to show a 1 cent market for over 2 billion XRP. You get the general idea. As I said before, the dealer panel members must always act in the best way, professional, within the guidelines of the of the dealer panel document that's provided by Ripple and signed by the bank, okay, because they are actually representing Ripple in selling XRP. Okay, makes sense? So basically, there will be turnover stats that will be provided to Ripple from the bank. Ripple will have their own turnover stats, and then, essentially the dealer panel member will get compensated as such at the first week of the new month. It's generally how it works, and there has to be utmost transparency. But there are many other functions within a dealer panel role. So when we talk about XRP, say for example, Ripple's basically appointed JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley and Citigroup as a number of, maybe they've got 20 dealer panel members, but these are just a couple they appointed, right? And these guys have been appointed. And say if we talk about JP Morgan, for example. So I've got a bit of a sore throat, I'm just going to have a glass of water. Excuse me. Say if they appointed JP Morgan, okay, as one of their dealer panel members. JP Morgan has many millions and millions of clients. And they have a very large client out of the Middle East. And that Middle Eastern client says to the sales trader on the JP Morgan treasury desk, I want to buy 5 billion of XRP. And, I don't want it, obviously, I don't want it going through the cryptocurrency exchange markets because it's too small and I don't want anyone to know about it. So JP Morgan will look in their own stock, their own coffers, and they'll say, we've got $1 billion. We'll have to try and find a source of the rest. In other words, the other 4 billion. Okay, so JP Morgan have a client order of 5 billion. They've got $1 billion sitting in their own book, but they've got to find another 4 billion. Now, generally within markets, JP Morgan probably will not want to go to another bank, because if another bank knows that a client is buying 4 billion from JP Morgan, it's going to start moving the price very, very fast. JP Morgan can hit another bank, there's no doubt about that, but don't forget, another bank is also a competitor of JP Morgan. Or alternatively, JP Morgan could go to Ripple direct. Ripple have a treasury desk where they could quite easily sell to JP Morgan 4 billion out of their 55 billion escrow that they have. So they could actually sell JP Morgan 4 billion. Ripple could, out of their escrow, JP Morgan now have their 1 that they were holding plus their 4 makes 5 that they can then on-sell to their client. Okay? So say the price is set. The price at the time is 30 cents. And the price is set between JP Morgan and Ripple at 30 cents. Okay, 30 cents and between Ripple and JP Morgan. The result of this is JP Morgan are effectively long or have bought an extra 4 billion XRP at 30 cents. And they have price risk. Okay, price risk. They bought XRP 4 billion at 30 cents. If XRP starts going down from 30 cents, JP Morgan are going to start losing money, and they're going to start hemorrhaging, and it's going to cost them, it's going to cost them money in losses, right? So they want the price of XRP to be stable, because if it starts going down, they're long XRP and they will start losing a lot of money. So they want XRP to be as stable as possible until they sell it to the client. JP Morgan's client has given them a strict order that they do not want to pay any more than 31.5 cents for 5 billion XRP. Now the thing is, the client is a very, very wealthy client from JP Morgan. a client that could be a part of a sovereign wealth fund in the Middle East, or could be a very, very wealthy person who's worth billions. And JP Morgan do not want to piss off that client, because if JP Morgan doesn't give that client the right price and that client thinks they've been screwed, then that client may never go back to JP Morgan. So this is a big client of JP Morgan's, and JP Morgan have to do the right thing. But also, being a dealer panel member to Ripple, they also have to do the right thing. And they basically have very strict rules about how they could have to interact with XRP to their own clients from Ripple. Now, as I said before, Ripple might have said to them, we don't want you making any more than a 1 cent spread between the buy and the sell for volume. And, you know, volume could be stipulated as over $1 billion, okay? Over $1 billion. So basically, what we've got is JP Morgan are holding on to $5 billion, which they want to sell to the client, and they have price risk. Ripple have sold $4 billion, and their escrow has gone down to 51 bill. So the thing is, the clients said they don't want to pay any more than 31.5 cents. JP Morgan's risk is, if the price goes down to 29.5 cents, they are going to effectively lose 0.5 cent on $4 billion. Okay, very quickly, the $4 billion that they purchased from Ripple. Okay, so they want to try and on sell that XRP, that volume, which is huge, fast to the client, so that they do not take on that price risk and start losing money, if that makes sense. Okay, so like I said, if the market starts moving down to 29.5 cents, JP Morgan have price risk on the 4 bill plus the 1 bill. Okay, and as I said, the client has given them a strict order. They don't want to pay any more than 31.5 cents, and that was pretty much off 30 cents. Okay, 30 cents. So the client's not stupid. They know where the market is, and they do not want to pay any more than 1.5 cents for 5 billion of XRP. Okay, now it's fairly important, because the dealer panel agreement form that both JP Morgan sign off and Ripple will actually state that no dealer panel member is allowed to rip and gouge cents out of the client. In other words, gouging, say, 20 cents out of the client for XRP, so that there is consistency with the price of XRP in the institutional market, the wholesale market, the over-the-counter market. You can't have XRP trading in one place, 15 cents, and in another place 30 cents, or in one bank 10 cents, and in somewhere else 15 cents. You get what I'm saying? So it is really important that a dealer panel agreement between JP Morgan and all the other dealer panel members and Ripple is very consistent, so client gouging of cents is not done. So in other words, if Ripple sells XRP to the client doesn't pay for XRP at 50 cents over, for example. At 50 cents. Okay, really, really important. Let me make that clear again. I don't want to confuse you. If Ripple sells XRP to a big bank and they sell it 30 cents, the dealer agreement panel form, the legal agreement, will actually state that client gouging is not allowed. So in other words, at a wholesale level, you would, Ripple would not want to see, a client paying, 50 cents for 5 billion when basically the market is 30 cents. And they'll actually stipulate that in the dealer panel agreement, that the most they can take out is essentially maybe 1 cent, 2 cents, or 3 cents. It just depends. Depends on what they think's reasonable for the huge volume we're talking about, okay? So if we assume in this situation the market is going down, JP Morgan have price risk, then essentially they would sell their 5 billion, assumably to the client at 31 cents, because they were in the parameters that Ripple say, the 1.5 cents. And basically, they might have taken a 0.5 point loss on 4 billion, but the dealer panel member fee at the end of the month will pay them 0.5 cent for turnover by Ripple. And that basically substitute their price risk of 0.5 cent that they lost on that deal, from 29.5 cents to 30 cents. It is complicated, guys, and I've tried to make it as simple as I can. But that's financial market stuff at the professional level. So I hope you get something out of this, and please, if you could support our Kickstarter thing. So I'm really tired tonight. Kickstarter thing, it's 50 US dollars. It's a fantastic cause. 45 euro. It's seriously worth its weight in gold. You're just not going to get information like that anywhere, seriously. And it is worth its weight in gold. So please support the God, I can't even say it properly tonight, I'm so tired. The Kickstarter program. Thanks, guys, and please look after yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to your family and friends. Be kind to your animals. Be kind to your doggies, all different puppies and animals. And please be kind to strangers and just make this world a better place. Thank you.